So how do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminski Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here.
What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. I got my man Always Q in the house once again. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Henry? How are you, man? Happy to be back.
I'm excited about today's conversation. You know, what's the ROI on branding? How many times have you had clients or prospects come to you and say, you know, this all sounds great, but what's the ROI on this? What's the guarantee on this that I'm actually going to get anything out of this? And we're going to spend some decent time today unpacking all of this, because I think this is going to help educate the folks that may not have such a fluid background in branding and may think it's a unnecessary luxury or it's a big waste of time and money. So right after this quick little message, we are going to get down and dirty about what the ROI is all about when it comes to branding. If you're a business owner who feels your branding isn't truly representing the value that you deliver, check out this free video training that will help you level up your brand's messaging and online presence so that you can start attracting higher quality clients. Visit www.uniquedesignz with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/level up my branding. So let's dive in. So there are multiple layers to ROI when it comes to branding. And we have three, and we have a little bonus one here as well that we're going to be discussing. But the first thing that comes to mind that is going to bring an ROI back to you when it comes to branding is the level of clarity you get with your business and with a few other things as well. So a couple things here. One is your messaging, how clear and articulate you can get with your messaging with strong branding, the value that you deliver as a business, as a product, as a service, as a brand, the mission behind your brand, getting really clear on that, but also being able to communicate that more clearly, along with your vision, your meaning, your points of differentiation, and that your audience gets this implicit thought when they think of you, or when your product or service, or a product or service of your kind comes to mind. How quickly do you come to mind as a brand in their brains? So let's talk about clarity a little bit. But you know, let me hear your thoughts, Always.
So I want to hit on that last point about the implicit recognition, you know, that how quickly you come to mind, but then also I would say the overall impact of all of this is going to be that it elevates that perceived value of expertise in their minds as well, if it's done correctly. If you're conveying the value of your offerings in the right way. If that's done with clarity, your mission, your vision, everything that you just stated all across the board, now there's that organized thought pattern in the minds of your ideal customers to be able to say, you know what, these guys are in a very organized fashion telling me exactly what I need to hear.
Yeah, well,
and that's what's going to create that recognition.
Yeah, not only that, you know, you start to get a better understanding and clarity on who your ideal client is.
Yeah.
right? And then you could tailor that messaging and laser focus that messaging to them. I had a client last year who, when I asked them, what was your biggest takeaway from the Brand Accelerator program? They said, clarity. It was clarity for me. We just didn't know who the hell we were serving.
Yeah.
And we had so many people that we wanted to target and deliver value to, but you helped us narrow that down to two specific types of clients, our advocate client and our outlier client. Our advocate client is going to be the client that we typically are going to serve. It's probably going to be 80% of our client base. And the outlier client is going to be that whale, the top 20%. You're not going to work with many of these, but when you do, it's going to be high level, and it's going to be with in my personal experience, when I've worked with those types of clients, they're the best clients yet, because they're very focused, and they know what they need, they know what they want, and they just are looking for somebody like ourselves to come in there and just get the job done. Right.
That's right.
So yeah, when you could get that clarity, it's a game changer. Now let's move into ROI point number 2, which is confidence. So this has been on my chest now for a couple of weeks now. And I think this came out in conversation in a recent, in a previous episode about what great branding does to you as an individual, but also to your business. And the first thing,
and your sales team.
And your sales team, exactly. Yeah. Your team overall, right? The subconscious is a very strong piece of psychology. And I remember when I was working with a client, I think it was back in 2019. She was from Canada, and she's been in business for 20 something years. And I said, how are you still charging $250 an hour for your service when you have that much knowledge, wisdom, and experience? You should be $2,500 an hour, And she goes, well, I'm just not confident in my brand. I don't like the way it's presented online. And I'm just not confident in raising my prices because I think people are going to say, you're not worth it. So, man, think about you not being confident in your brand identity, your brand messaging, your brand positioning online, and getting a prospect to come to you that's very interested in your product or service, but you don't feel it inside internally.
Yeah.
How do
you get them to make that switch?
Well, how is that coming? How are you coming across to the prospect?
Yeah.
Right.
Not as an expert. Not as an expert. It's just like the same thing. Like let's say if you went and purchased or went into a luxury clothing store or a luxury watch store, and what's priced over there, and the way that those watches are probably built with they're probably handcrafted, hand manufactured, versus something that came out of a factory floor. Completely night and day difference.
Yeah.
Right? And the perception of value is going to be different.
The perception of value is going to be different, but the confidence in yourself is going to be different. Like when you're working with custom, there's a sense of pride behind it. There's a sense of exclusivity behind it. And like, there's a whole different vibe going on, right? If you're not confident in your branding, like, how could you expect other people to be confident in the deliverable? I had like a little aha moment yesterday. So I've been going on a lot of podcasts lately, and I hired a podcast coach and agency to help me just get better on podcasts because I do so many here at the Brand Doctor podcast, but I also go on quite a few as well. And she asked me a very interesting question, which I wasn't expecting it from her, but she says, Henry, what's your vision for this company? And like, what is its meaning? Like on a sub level, not a surface level, but on a sub level. And this was interesting. So I was like, and I didn't miss a beat. I said, this business that I've created 14 years ago is all about helping people build confidence, not only in themselves, but in their business. I'm in the confidence building business. I'm not in the design business or the funnel business. I'm in the confidence building business. And then I said something that I think struck her, because I could see the look in her face when I said this. I said, there's something about me that maybe a lot of people don't know. And that's that I've struggled tremendously a majority of my life with confidence, self-confidence. I was bullied as a kid. I was jumped as a kid in high school. Imagine being in an auditorium filled with kids and these two guys come out of nowhere and just belt you behind your head. And you go woozy, you fall to the ground, and they just beat the living shit out of you in front of hundreds of kids. Like, I vividly remember that experience, right? Being on the playground, and how about in high school, freshman year, I'm down in Long Branch, New Jersey, and one of my neighbors says, "Oh, let's go up to the projects to play basketball," and I'm like, "All right." So I hop on my bike, and my neighbor's brother goes, "You're bringing that bike up there?" And my neighbor, who's my age, goes, "Yeah, nobody's gonna take the bike." So I go up there with a sharp looking bike with them, and I'm playing in this game, and this little kid, like 6 years old, hops on my bike like it's his. Gone. Just gone. I get the bike back because my friend actually vouched for me and knew who it was, but I didn't get it back for a couple of days. I didn't think I was ever going to get that bike back. But those are some things, and those are silly things, right? But well, maybe not the jumping part, but how about in the dating space when I used to date? Like, I was so self-conscious of my height. I was so self-conscious of the way I looked and the way, the way I was raised. I was like, I just didn't have that confidence. And she was blown away. She goes, "Henry, you strike me as a man who comes across very, very confident." I said, "Well, I'm 40 years old and I've worked many, many hours through therapy and through experience to get here. But I've struggled tremendously with confidence. And I see people older than me that struggle with confidence. So I'm very passionate about this. And this is my life's work now. And I just happen to do it through business." Well, tremendously, because here's what happens. What I've found, especially on sales calls, especially on calls where I'm having that sales conversation, when I am at the highest level of confidence and I can feel it and it's running through my veins, that's the business I always close, and I always have a great relationship with that client for years to come. When I head into a sales conversation and I'm just not feeling it that day, and my confidence is low, never closes the deal. Because whether I'm in some sort of scarcity mindset, who knows? Something could have triggered me that day, and I'm just not feeling it. And never close the deal then. Never close the deal. So when I'm working at that level of confidence and I have that and I feel good about my work, I feel good about my presence online, I feel good about the value that I'm delivering, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different feel. It's a whole different experience. So, that's a huge part. Now, there's some other things that when you're working at this level of confidence, when you have a real confidence in yourself and in your brand because you're proud of it, that's going to allow you to position yourself as a premium offer. And that leads to a lot of negotiation power. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain on this always when it comes to this, because, you know, you're not cheap either. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on how confidence allows you to position yourself to negotiate at a higher level, but also position yourself at a premium so that people are like, whoa, this, they're no joke here.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to the clarity piece. Having all of the messaging dialed in, having the ideal client dialed in, and knowing exactly what their core challenges are across the board. And once that's repeated over and over again, you know, through something like a voice of customer research before you're starting your entire branding, once you've identified all of those pieces, you're able to, with much better clarity and more confidence, go into that sales that sales situation and say, you know what, let's ask some targeted questions. Let's at least get, you know, and I think that's the biggest thing. Blair Enns also talks about this. It's the switch. It's the switch from a service provider to an expert, right? You're no longer just another service provider. You're now the expert. You're now the doctor that is coming in here to diagnose the situation. And the only way that you can diagnose that situation is if your message includes very specific targeted questions around things that you have, that you're in the position to resolve.
Exactly.
So what brings you in today? So how is this creating an impact in your business? What's you know, how typically what I ask is, what's happening? What are your biggest challenges in acquiring the right clients right now?
Right. That's a great question.
Yeah. And that gets them to just expand on the story. I'm just kind of sitting back and letting them go from there. But it's, you know, it's that level of confidence.
You got to have that confidence to ask those questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And there are times where the questions may set the other person off because they have never looked at their business that way, or they weren't even prepared to come in. There are oftentimes I get this response, wow, I wasn't prepared to come in and answer questions like this.
Yeah.
Or I never thought about my business this way.
Yeah. That's huge.
But yeah, that's huge. And that all stems from having a level of confidence to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to ask this type of a question today because, or not today, but moving forward, because I really I have a genuine interest in wanting to get to understand my prospective client much better, so that the outcome that we're trying to lead them towards is going to be one that's not only just favorable, but it's going to be, you know, something that they really see a difference in.
Yeah.
So as they're gaining confidence in their brand, and as a result of the brand, they're also seeing an improvement in their business performance.
That's the key. You know, that's the key. So, which leads us to the third ROI point of branding is the connection piece. So we have clarity, we have confidence, we have connection. So what do I mean by connection? So I'm specifically talking about connection with audience. Okay, connection with audience, connection with clients. And that runs deep, right? The connection to grow your audience, the connection to brand loyalty, the connection to retaining those clients, the connection to build tremendous amounts of trust with your audience and those clients, and then the connection through experience. I was reading a Medium article yesterday, and they were talking about how user experience is a huge differentiator and something that all businesses now after COVID should be paying attention to 2021 and the years to come, because the working space has changed so drastically, right? So a lot of businesses are home based.
Yeah.
these days. A lot of businesses are running remote operations.
Yeah.
So when you're running remote, see that when COVID hit, it didn't even startle me because I've worked with remote teams for 14 years. You know, it was just, there was business. It was business as usual over here, but let's talk about the brick and mortars. Let's talk about that was a huge disruption.
Yeah.
And so,
and I mean, also on the customer side, right? I mean, more customers are now relying on the virtual space, virtual marketplace to really be able to not only research prospective or potential vendors, but then also, you know, again, they want to make their buying decisions right then and there, or at least finalize their final 3 or final 5 in terms of who they're considering to buy from. And that's huge because it's no longer, hey, let's go from place to place outside in the physical environment and see who's out there that can potentially help me resolve whatever it is that I'm wanting to resolve, or you know, give me the product that I want to buy. Now everyone is, the first thing we do is pick up our phones and try to figure out exactly what's the quickest way I can actually find something, right?
Yes.
Quickest way.
Yes.
Quickest way. That's the biggest thing. So if you know, if you haven't created a repeatable process that creates a top of mind awareness for your brand, after you've gotten clarity, after you've gained that confidence, if you are not creating that top of mind awareness as effectively as the brand doctor does, where you'll probably receive an email from him, you know, 3 times a day. You turn on, you get on Instagram, and more than likely he's on top of the feeds there, you know. So we're
listen,
all learning from you, Henry. We're all learning from you.
I would have never been able to do that had I not focused on, you know, internal process and internal efficiencies, which we're going to talk about in a second. And so it's very, very important to understand that the connection you have with your audience, with your clients is birthed from great branding. Because it again, branding is that experience. It's a feeling. It's that connection, consciously and subconsciously. Becky Smith. There's Becky Smith says here. So top of mind is the new ZMOT.
Zero. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero moment of truth. Yeah. You got to stay in. You got to stay in front of your customers. You know, that formula hasn't changed, Becky. It's, you know, before the digital revolution, you had TV, and the people that were, or the commercials or the brands that were the most in front of you, you were more likely to actually go and purchase that. Subconsciously, they were embedded in your mind. You know, and we talk about this as often as possible. When you win their hearts and minds, you have won their business. And the only way that you're going to win their hearts and minds is staying in front of them as much as possible, and really being able to connect with them at an emotional and subconscious level.
And a human level.
At a human level, yeah.
That was another thing that I've noticed. A big trend in branding and marketing moving forward is going to be the humanization of your brand. And I talked about it yesterday, the alignment between corporate brand with personal brand, and how that's going to play a huge, huge part moving forward. And doing these live streams and reaching out to your audiences and bringing them and letting them be part of your marketing is huge. You know, perfect example.
Authenticity. I mean, you know, I think that's what really is the component of the human aspect of it, right? I mean, it's one thing to just have 2 individuals coming over here and reading off of a script, or even like a pre-scripted sort of a format, and lecturing everyone, or having a real conversation and being able to show up in as much of a real aspect of themselves as possible.
Yeah, that's why I encourage. You know, we have a few live viewers right now. Feel free to drop comments. Feel free to you know, engage with us. You know, because I that's the best part of doing these live streams is having you guys engage with us and ask questions and comments, and it ignites us. You know, and I love it. I absolutely love it. The last part of the IR That's me waking up at 1:30 this morning and never going back to bed. Becky says I'm emotional about Henry. I love Becky. Becky's a doll. I've known Becky for years. But the last ROI that you could get or can expect from strong branding is efficiency, right? And I know there's 3 parts of efficiencies that are crucial and critical inside of anyone's business. And
all right, so I'm going to be a skeptic here. I'm going to play the skeptic here because how are you going to? And you know, this is someone that's having a difficult time trying to justify a significant amount of money that I need to invest and that you're telling me to invest into branding. And now you're going to tell me that you can create efficiencies in my process, in my internal process, in my business. Are you pitching EOS here? Are you pitching some sort of a process? Are you pitching a process improvement? Or are you pitching branding? Which one is it, Henry?
Look at you. I love this. I love it. The pitchforks come out. No, this is great because listen, this is what clients ask us all day long, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to answering that question in a second. The 3 things that we need to pay attention to and that I emphasize strongly in my strategy program is efficiencies in revenue, efficiencies in awareness, and efficiencies in efficiencies, you know, internal processes and system. And I have a really fun exercise that I do with clients that helps prioritize those, right? And it really, really narrows things down nicely. So at the end of the day, we're like, wow, out of these 15 things, based on your little maneuver here, I know the top 3 that I need to be focusing in on right now. And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. But here's what happens when you have a strong brand strategy and when you have strong branding. That branding better informs you, which allows you to make more informed decisions on those 3 pillars right there. Right? So great brand strategy is informational, and it's going to allow you to have that knowledge to be able to steer a more refined and a more nimble ship. And so, you know, you'll be able to make stronger revenue decisions. What funnel do I build to help me with this objective, to help me get this outcome? What platform strategy am I going to use to help me obtain this objective in my marketing? How are we going to execute that platform strategy? Okay. That could be influencer marketing. That could be going on podcast tours, whatever. But without a strong brand strategy, you're shooting into the dark over there. Right? Then when it comes to efficiencies is let's look at our customer experience once they get onboarded, or how about let's look at the onboarding process and let's see where the gaps are. Right? And then once they get onboarded, what does the process look like? Is your customer well informed? Like one thing that drives me absolutely berserk when I hire companies is the notification of what's next. I've hired tons of businesses for premium, and they do a shitty job on letting me know where we are in the process. So I go way above and beyond my client when I bring people into the Brand Accelerator program to let them know where we're at in the process, what to expect, and I'm always 3 steps ahead of them. So like today, we're behind the scenes the past week and a half working on a website design, and I'm sending out a check-in message inside of our software, inside of our project management software. We use Basecamp. You could use, there's all tons of different ones, but we use Basecamp. And I have a thread there called checking in. And every week I hit that thread just to give my clients, it's husband and wife in this particular case, just a, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we're working on. This is what I discussed with the team. We got about another week to get all the other pages framed out and designed. So we're looking at third week of May to sit down and approve all of the design and get it into dev. So they know they're not out in the dark. Like if a client has to reach out to you and say, where are we at? You're failing.
Yeah.
I'm a true believer in that. Like a client should never have to reach out to you and ask you where we're at. They should always be informed, because a well-informed client, what?
Builds trust.
And they're the best client.
They're the best client, yeah.
They're the best client. So how do we tie all this up in a nice bow and ship it?
I got one more.
Oh, go ahead.
I brought one more to the list.
Shoot.
So you've got clarity, confidence, connection, and efficiencies. I just made a post about this. How are you attracting top talent?
Oh, that's right.
How are you attracting people? People that actually come in and work for you. Because those are the ones that are going to interact, just like you were talking about communication right now. Those are the people that are going to communicate with your clients. If a client comes in, let's say a client comes in after you've delivered something to them, and they've now come back with some sort of an issue, some sort of a problem. Immediately, if you have not even taken the time or made the effort to give them some sort of an immediate response, to acknowledge, it's not something that needs to be immediately resolved. Maybe it can't be, but to at least acknowledge that their inquiry has been received and we're working on it. You know, we do this all the time. That's part of our process. To make sure that, you know, whatever we receive from the client, acknowledge that message right away.
Yeah.
That's the first step. So
I think that's awesome. And when you said attracting top talent, I thought about some local restaurants that I like to frequent here in Jersey. I have a client down probably 25 minutes from here for years, back when I was doing print design. You know, I was doing all of his business cards and his menus and his brochures and all of that. And one thing that this restaurant does really, really well is they have a great company culture, and you could tell every single employee was like hand selected, because they're brand ambassadors to that restaurant. And they all have a certain look. They all have a certain level of standard. I don't want to throw them under the bus, but you know, I don't want to call anybody out, but you could tell that they take pride in the quality of employee that they hire. I'll give you another funny example. When I was getting married, we're going on our 10-year anniversary this year. This was hilarious. So we're venue shopping on a Saturday. And we would frequent. So we went to a few different wedding halls, and we didn't get to the one that we really wanted to check out. So we were like, all right, we'll catch it next weekend. Right. That night we wind up going to one of my clients' nightclubs, and who's there? The freaking owner of the wedding hall that we didn't get to catch. So the owner introduces me to this guy who he knew for years. And he's like, yeah, Henry and his wife are looking for venue places, blah, blah, blah. And we start chatting it up. And so he's asking me questions, and you know, he's schmoozing the hell out of us, buying us drinks and this and that, right? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, I'm telling you guys right now, you can go check out the other venues all over the place, but you're not going to get an experience like what we're going to give you. And I could just tell, but you and your wife right now, you're Westmount people. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, you're the type of people that we serve. And I was like, he had his ideal client mapped out, and he had a standard and a level of quality for his client that he wanted to serve. Now, fast forward. Ironically, we've been in this house for 6 years. My across the street neighbor is cousins and part owner of the venue that we got married in. Talk about coincidence.
Wow.
Right? Talk about coincidence. But he was like, you guys are Westmount people. And I don't know, Oasis, but that triggered me to connect with him the next day. Now we're both hungover, and now he almost canceled on me. He's like, oh, we're going to meet tomorrow at Westmount at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm up like hungover, but I'm up. And I'm like, so I texted him. I'm like, are we meeting? And he's like, oh, let's go. Let's do it Monday. And I was like, do you want us to get married at the Westmount? And he goes, I'll see you at 10:30. So I show up, he shows up, and he gave us the best deal, and he made us feel like family. And he's like, you made the right decision. You guys are Westmount people. He kept saying, you guys are Westmount people. And then when we had our wedding there, you could tell every single employee was top notch. Top notch. There was a certain standard that you had to live by in order to work there.
There you go.
And where did that come from? That came from the branding that the Westmount stood for, and that they created and curated very, very intentionally
and upheld.
And for years and years to come. Yeah. And
so whoever comes in as, you know, as a prospective employee, as a potential employee, whoever's applying there has either now said, you know what, I fit into this or I don't.
Yes. And that's the whole point of the story. It's a little drawn out, but that was the whole point of the story is people are going to associate, right? And people are going to, oh, you're a Westmount people, or you're you could just fill in the blank. You're a Google type of guy, or you're an Apple person, right? You're right. And you could see when you walk into an Apple store, you could tell people are very tech forward. They're very friendly. They're very creative. It's a completely different vibe than walking in. Well, I don't think they have them anymore, but my friend used to work at a retail Microsoft store. 2 different experiences, way different. I don't think Microsoft stores are, no, there may be. I know they downsized quite a few of them, but there's Microsoft stores now. And it was very interesting to feel the different vibes in each store. So anyway, very, very strong point always about hiring the right talent or attracting the right talent. You know what I mean? When it comes to the ROI and your branding. So, man, we tackled that in 38 minutes. I thought we were going to go way longer than that. So, here's the big bow that I want to tie around this episode is, if you don't have strong confidence in your branding, how do you expect your audience to have confidence in your product or service? Period. End of story. I don't know where you went.
I think my audio is still on. I don't know why my camera just fell off, so I'm coming back on, man. No worries.
It's all good.
I'm coming back on.
So here's the thing. At the end of the day, when you invest in your branding, that's equity back into the business that is going to go on and pay you back in spades years and years to come. Yes, you could do marketing activations. You could get that short-term thrust of sale or anything like that. But let's talk long-term. You know, let's talk big picture. Yeah, let's talk big picture. Yeah.
Branding is more long-term, and I mean, it's got all of these different arms that you just mentioned. right?
Yeah.
So
And
you're not going to be, and I say this all the time, you're not going to be able to have an effective use of your investment if you're just going on the short-term marketing tactics just to ramp up your sales, but then you're gonna hit a growth ceiling sooner or later, and
well,
you're gonna
think about this for a second. Imagine your business with the proper branded identity, messaging system, the whole nine, can command a price like Starbucks did with coffee. They commanded the price of a $5 coffee, and people buy it all day long. That's branding.
Yeah.
Right? Apple could command the prices of their iPhones because they established a strong brand. Now you could play, if you're a coach, consultant, you could play at a lower level, but you can play that game as well with strong branding. Right? I remember, and I mean, we really got to wrap this up, but I remember when Russell Brunson told me, Henry, without you, businesses will not be able to communicate from a visual standpoint and from a messaging standpoint as well as they would if they tried to do it themselves.
Exactly.
So your service provides such a value to busy business owners that aren't well versed in branding, don't know what the hell they're doing, and need somebody like you to come in and like the hired gun. So if you don't believe that you're valuable to these folks, they're not going to believe it either. And they're going to just find somebody else that is. And that woke me up. And that's when I said, you know what? Done. Tripling all my prices. That's it. And I'd be lying to you if I wasn't nervous and my knees were shivering. But I leaned into it because what I did was I rebranded. I got a tremendous amount of confidence in that rebrand process. And when you got to my site, people were like, "Ooh, you fancy." Right? And they said, "I get it. So I'm not ready for you yet." Or I've had other clients that just said, "Where do I send the check?" Because you're our guy. Right? Because they saw the level of quality. They saw what they resonated with. So that's the power, right? Peter Butler says, great branding equals higher premium price cost. Yeah. You could command that with strong branding. And that's my life's work right there, is to help entrepreneurs do that through brand strategy, brand identity, system creation, and then creating that business growth acceleration, through funnels and so on. And that's powerful. That 1, 2, 3 punch is very, very powerful.
And when it's systemized, when it's structured, you're able to convey the value of all of this with some conviction. And I think that's the most important aspect of it. So that you and your sales team are able to go out there with that level of confidence that says, you know what, we actually believe in this. Mm-hmm. This is not just something that's just, hey, we were, Henry put it together and we're just reading off of the script. Mm-hmm. This represents us, and we're able to represent this with some conviction.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah. Because I am living proof of this, my belief, and I put this in all my presentations at the end, whether I'm doing mini webinars or if I'm just doing a little workshop, but at the end of all of it, I always put this belief: the quality of your brand determines the quality of your clients, and the quality of your clients will determine the quality of your life. When I raised my standards, I found higher quality clients, and then my quality of life got so much better. Because I remember the days of just bringing on clients I wasn't supposed to bring on, and going through and having knots in my stomach and not wanting to meet with them. And it was just like pulling teeth. And I remember how horrible that was. And I could truthfully say I haven't had that experience in close to 5 years. Right when my son was born. So we're going on 4 years. I haven't had an experience like that.
Wow.
And that's because it started internally. I leveled up the standard of my brand, not only for my business, but my personal life. And that changed the game. So we got to wrap up, dude. So this was awesome. I want to, for those folks that made it to the end of this episode, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to screenshot this episode, and I want you to put it in your IG story, and I want you to tag me at the brand DR, and I am going to reshare it and give you a huge shout out and give you some more exposure as well, for tuning in. And I appreciate all you guys so much for your loyalty and your continued support for the show. And we're not going anywhere. We're just getting warmed up. So guys, have an amazing day. And we will catch you on the next episode real soon.